Welcome to Bet with Bobano. It is Wednesday, March 13th. It is a very busy week in basketball action, specifically college basketball, where we have conference championship week in progress, conference tournaments, really day and night for the next 4 days. An exciting time of year, and usually for me, a pretty profitable time of year. And we're hoping for more of the same here in a lot of these games. We've already today. I've already cashed, a live bet with George Mason. I've got Fordham plus the points. I had Fresno State; they just won outright at Wyoming. I had the over in the Florida State Virginia Tech game. Notre Dame's actually a game I've got right now. That one's a little more dicey, but they're hanging in there. They're down 7 to Wake Forest. But yeah, to me, this is a very profitable time of year, and we're definitely hoping for more of the same. The one side that I've got in the early going that's not in good shape at all is UTSA. We do need to see them get going a bit. They're down 12 to Temple in the first half. But very exciting time of year with these conference tournament games going morning, noon, and night. We'll definitely get to some of that. We're going to go rapid fire through this NBA slate because, to be honest, a lot of my focus this week is college basketball. NBA's kind of taken a back seat for this particular week. But as we always do, we'll go through the card. We'll begin with the Raptors and the Pistons. We've got Detroit 3.5-point home favorites, 232.5 the total in this game. I actually like Detroit here. Toronto is a hard team to back right now. This is the road trip where they started out west, Phoenix and Portland and Denver. They lost all 3 games. Now you're playing Detroit the last leg of this trip before you return home. Pretty tricky spot. A couple of nice home wins for the Pistons against Brooklyn and Charlotte. They got blown out by Dallas in between, but this isn't Dallas. This is a team that's beatable, just like Brooklyn, just like Charlotte. So to me, this is a manageable game here for the Detroit Pistons. I think they get the job done, laying the small number with them here against a Toronto team that still very much shorthanded, depleted, and again completing a road trip. Tough spot, I think, for the Raptors here. So I think Pistons can get it done there in that one. Brooklyn, Orlando, 6.5-point home favorites, 204.5 the total. And this is a very low total for today's NBA. But when you start to look at what we've seen lately from Orlando, they've been playing very good defense. They've been trending under the total. That being said, at what point does it get a little bit too low? Because Brooklyn's gone over in 5 straight games, and all 5 of those games have seen more than the number of points that we see with this total here tonight. So I'm tempted by over here. I don't have a side in this game. I think Orlando is the side I'd probably lean with here in this game, especially coming off a home loss to Indiana, 111 to 97. I do believe they're in a pretty good bounce back situation. In fact, I just might lay the points here with Orlando in this game. Certainly the side I would prefer. Both teams relatively healthy, by the way, which is a breath of fresh air in today's NBA, where we obviously have all these usually lengthy injury reports that we have to deal with going into so many games, and we don't have that really here in this game, which is nice for a change. But yeah, like I say, Orlando, and I just think this total's fallen to a point that it's just a little too low. I mean, 204.5. Brooklyn has gone over in 5 straight games entering tonight, so I'd probably look at an over now with the total being this low here in this game, especially with no personnel missing for either side. All right, Chicago and Indiana. We've got the Pacers, 4-point home favorites, 229 the total in this matchup. The Pacers, 37-30, actually putting some nice performances together. The only loss in their last 4 games was against a Minnesota Timberwolves team. It was right there for them. They lost by 2. Other than that, though, they blew out Dallas on the road, winning outright as underdogs, going to Orlando, beating the Magic by double digits. And how about the win against Oklahoma City last night? 121-111, outright as 5.5-point dogs. But back-to-back for this team, Chicago does have the rest advantage, coming off a 127-92 loss to the Dallas Mavericks. Looks like Doug McDermott is out, the main absence for Indiana, but everyone else pretty much good to go. Torrey Craig, key defender for Chicago, a game-time decision for them. A bit of a tricky game here, but, Indiana coming off the big win last night. Chicago, a couple of times on the road, we have seen them rise up, beating Sacramento, beating Golden State on the road. The Clippers game kind of got away from them, but they were really right in that game. I kind of lean Bulls here. I'm not sure I'm trusting Indiana laying points on a back-to-back after the big win they had last night. Not something I love, but I would lean Chicago just a little bit here, 4.5 as road underdogs in this game. You look at the total here in this game as well. Indiana is finally started to play some better defense, and certainly it's actually been a more of an under team really since they got Siakam. 8-2 to the under for the Pacers here in their last 10 games. We remember them as such an over machine early in the season. I'm hammering overs left and right involving the Pacers, but they definitely have been changing their spots a little bit, trending more toward unders in recent games. So that's why the market's gone that way toward the under in this game, probably plus the fact that Indiana's coming off a back-to-back here in this game as well. Not to mention we've had 2 straight unders head-to-head between the two teams this season. All right, next up we've got Denver, Miami. The Nuggets, 3.5 point road favorites. 217 is the total in this game. The Denver Nuggets basically played one good quarter against Toronto, and it was enough to win. It was not enough to cover, obviously. They were laying a huge number, but that was basically the Nuggets sleepwalking for 3 quarters against a depleted, banged-up, shorthanded Raptors team, and then they woke up in the fourth quarter, turned it on, and because they're the far superior team, they still managed to survive a game that they were really losing by double digits most of the way. We'll see if they can improve, but 125, 119. I like the over here. The total's gone up. I agree with that a little bit. Now, I know these two teams played just recently in Denver. It was a 103-97 Denver victory. But you do have to remember that that game, as far as was a few weeks ago, Miami, the last little bit, we've seen them kind of trend better at the offensive end. It looks like Tyler Hero out tonight for the Miami Heat. Jimmy Butler probable for Miami. So it looks like Butler's good to go. Hero not good to go here for the Heat in this game. Revenge spot for Miami. Denver on the road hasn't nearly been as good this year, 18-14 on the road. I kind of lean to the Miami side a little bit, but does kind of bother me that Tyler Hero key, you get offense from him. We'll have to wait and see. Miami, we'll have to see if Butler's fully healthy. So I don't feel comfortable with those elements in play to take Miami. But the revenge spot, I would lean that way slightly. I think the over is the best approach here in this game, and we've seen the total bumped up from 215 to 217 in this matchup. All right, we've got Charlotte, Memphis. The Hornets, 2.5 point road favorites, 203 being the total in this game. It's another game where the total is so low with these two teams. I'm tempted, very, very tempted to go over this number, but I'm a little more hesitant with this game. I mean, Charlotte's offense has been a little bit sketchy of late. I mean, they've been held below 100 points in 2 of their last 4 games. We know Memphis definitely has a hard time finding the basket. They got held to 92 in a loss to Atlanta, 93 in a loss to Oklahoma City. They did break 100 points, 109 against Washington, but going to be a little bit more of a challenge here. They remain just incredibly shorthanded and depleted with Zaire Williams, Marcus Smart, Derrick Rose, Brandon Clark, Vince Williams. Jaren Jackson is a game-time decision. Desmond Bane's a game-time decision tonight. Lamar Stevens is a game-time decision. Scottie Pippen Jr. Is a game-time decision. So it's just a team that's absolutely in shambles as far as health is concerned. So it's got to be Charlotte or nothing for me in this game. But you're talking about a Charlotte team that just got blown out by 114-97. And we've seen instances, the last month or two where even as ravaged and depleted, a Memphis team can still somehow rise from the ashes and compete and cover numbers and even win games. We have seen that from them. So it's not really a game I have much interest in from a betting perspective. I'd probably lean Charlotte because, they're the healthier group. But Memphis has been weirdly impressive at times, even with this depleted roster, especially in the underdog role. So I'm going to stay off that one. Next up, we got the Cavs and the Pelicans. New Orleans, 5.5 point home favorites. 217 is the total in this game. Injury-wise, going into this game, we've got Darius Garland Darius Garland's in. Donovan Mitchell is questionable with the knee injury here for the Cleveland Cavaliers. Ty Jerome, Evan Mobley, Max Strus remain out. That's definitely a concern for me with Cleveland, who, have been battling these nagging injuries with their personnel for a while. It's kind of affected them on the court as well. They haven't played great, 5-5 straight up, 4-6 against the spread. They've lost back-to-back at home to Brooklyn and Phoenix. The Phoenix game was really, really unfortunate for them because they led a good portion of that game, but Phoenix made a great push in the fourth quarter to come back and take the lead and eventually win that game by 6. So Cleveland off back-to-back losses, now going on the road. We'll be looking to bounce back here against the Pelicans. Looks like for New Orleans tonight, relatively healthy, except for, of course, Dyson Daniels. But other than that, everyone's relatively healthy, good to go here in this matchup. New Orleans has been off since 116-103 road victory against the Atlanta Hawks over the weekend, and now they will, like I said, return home. It was a 3-game road trip, but they have had 2 days off, so it's not as bad of a spot, and it doesn't fit the criteria of the Malinsky special, which is bet against a team returning home off a 4-game road trip or longer. This road trip was only 3 games for New Orleans, and with that in mind, I would lean to the New Orleans side here, -5.5. We're just waiting for final confirmations here, but again, you do have a banged-up Cleveland team that on the road this year, actually not a bad road record, 19-11. But I think given the situation here with New Orleans, it's a situation where I'd expect them to play well here in this game tonight. Now, they do play the Clippers at home coming up on Friday. So is there a look ahead? That's probably the thing that I'm a little concerned about. So this is not a leaping endorsement of the Pelicans, but right now I think Cleveland, they've just too much instability with their roster and too much of a downgrade in their performance lately as a team to trust them on the road here against a pretty good team. So New Orleans or pass for me with this game tonight. All right, Golden State and Dallas. Dallas Mavericks 7-point home favorites, 233 the total in this matchup. Dallas is not a team I like laying points with. It's really that simple, and yet I get it. The last 3 games, Miami, Detroit, and Chicago, they've been very good laying points. I actually did take Dallas against Chicago. Home favorites is where they've had their issues. You look at the Miami game, they did cover, but it was barely. In fact, Miami was inside the number most of the game, and unfortunately, late free throws put it Dallas in the win column ATS against the Heat the other night. But before that, decent sized home favorites like the Indy game, 5.5-point favorites, they lost outright. Philadelphia, 7.5-point home favorites, they lost outright. So when I look at this spot here, Dallas, just long term, from everything I've seen, from my past experiences betting on this team, I don't want to lay this many with them. Now, I get it on Golden State. You see that Steph Curry's not going to play tonight with the ankle injury. They announced it yesterday. So he is going to miss a 3rd straight game. Looks like, though, he might be on pace to return for their next game, but won't be on the floor tonight. Without Curry, it's tough to back Golden State. They need him quite a bit on the floor. They've lost 2 of their last 3 games to Chicago and San Antonio, although they did bounce back and beat San Antonio in the rematch on the road the other night. We'll see how this one goes. Golden State, by the way, or Dallas, I should say, plays at Oklahoma City tomorrow night. Golden State, meanwhile, they play on Saturday night after this at LA against the Lakers. So it's actually a back-to-back for Dallas. I still might grab Golden State. I still might. I just do not trust Dallas laying this number here in this game, even without Steph Curry on the floor for Golden State. So Warriors for me, 7.5 is what the lean would be, is where I would look in this game from a side perspective. Lean over too. I know this total's going down without Curry, but Dallas's defense still isn't been very good lately. Golden State doesn't mind getting up and down the court either, so wouldn't surprise me to see this still go over the total. And it's worth noting, 6 straight head-to-head matchups, the Mavericks and the Warriors have gone over the total. All right, next up, we've got Atlanta and Portland. Atlanta Hawks, 3.5-point road favorites, 217 the total. This is a game that I don't want much to do with. Do we want to lay points on the road with Atlanta? Me personally, no. Now, I know they've won 3 of their last 4, including the Cavs and the Knicks. Pretty good wins, but still, road favorite is not what I consider the a long-term profitable point spread role for this Atlanta Hawks team. And keep in mind, Bogdan Bogdanovic is a game-time decision tonight. Still missing a couple pieces. Trae Young is still out as well. Okongwu, Jalen Johnson. They both might not play tonight either for the Atlanta Hawks. So that's something that's concerning. Portland got blown out by Boston, but Boston's maybe the best team in the league right now, 121-99. Before that, they beat Toronto at home as home underdogs in overtime. They lost by 16 to Houston. Before that, as home underdogs, failed to cover as well. But then they played Oklahoma City. They were 13.5-point underdogs, and they did cover. They lost by 8. And they are on a 5-2 ATS run their last 7 games. I'm telling you what, if the Portland's not always easy to trust. They kind of have some erratic behavior. They've got their own injuries too. Shaden Sharp, Malcolm Brogdon are out. Jeremy Grant, which is significant. It's huge, actually, his presence, because he's one of their better offensive performers, 21 points per game. He's questionable with a hamstring injury, but so keep an eye on this. If Jeremy Grant does play, though, I'd be tempted to take a shot with the Blazers here as home underdogs. I just am not ready to trust Atlanta laying points on the road. Keep in mind they play at Utah Friday night. Portland, meanwhile, they host the Knicks tomorrow night. So not sure I'll be involved, but if Jeremy Grant's in, I might grab a piece of Portland here in this game. All right, LA Lakers, Sacramento. The last game of this Wednesday NBA slate. The Lakers 2.5-point road favorites. The total 238.5 in this matchup. I cashed a ticket just recently with the Sacramento Kings in a game against the Lakers. It was a week ago, and I mentioned it on the show. They ended up with the 130-120 victory in LA. So Sacramento in the over, cashed, and I liked both of them. I like the over again here. I'm not as bullish on Sacramento tonight in this rematch, and it's a short turnaround revenge spot too for the Lakers. But at the same, I don't know if I'm going to lay it with the Lakers either, though, because they're laying points on the road. It's a situation where going into this game, you've got Vanderbilt out, you got Christian Wood out, you got Cam Reddish out. I think LeBron is going to play. He's always on the injury report, but I'm sure he's going to go. And the same goes with Anthony Davis here in this matchup tonight. It is a revenge spot for the Lakers, but there might be some value with Sacramento still at home. 18-12 home record. Although it's worth noting with Sacramento, they've been a little bit better on the road this year. Certainly ATS, that's been true. I'd still lean Sacramento here a little bit as a home underdog, but I don't like them as much as I liked them last week when they were on the road in LA. I do like this game over the total. I do agree with that. But to me, I mean, I think it's being a little presumptuous to put the Lakers as a road favorite in this game. Now, this is still a team that's 12-19 straight up, 13-18 against the spread on the road. So I like the over. I lean Sacramento. I don't like the side as much as the total in this game, but I'm not laying points with the Lakers here on the road. All right, college basketball. Let's turn our attention there. I'll give you some rapid fire looks and opinions from the college basketball conference tournament slate. We've certainly got a lot of conference tournament action coming up here in the latter part of the afternoon and evening. Let's just go down in rotation order. I'll throw one out from the Atlantic 10 for tonight. St. Louis Billikens plus the points. And look, I am very much a heavy underdog bettor when it comes to conference tournaments, especially when you're talking about favorites of 8 points or more, 9 points or more. I'm not saying they never cover, but you're playing with some bad percentages if you're going to lay 8 points or double digits in a lot of these conference tournament games. And St. Louis is one of those teams that roster and talent-wise, there's a decent amount of talent on this team, and Duquesne was more than enough erratic and inconsistent throughout the season where I think St. Louis could keep that competitive against Duquesne in the A10. As far as some of the action tonight, I don't trust Clemson laying a 7.5 against Boston College. I know Clemson's on the bubble, but being on the bubble doesn't mean you're going to win or win by margin necessarily. The money's come in on Cincinnati. They're favorites against Kansas, but you have to play Cincinnati or you pass because Kansas has already made it known they don't give two shits about the Big 12 tournament. Bill Self sent McCullough and Hunter Dickinson home. They're not playing in this tournament, and tells you all you need to know. Basically came out and said, we're just looking forward to the NCAA tournament. So under no circumstances can I back Kansas knowing that. So it would be Cincinnati for me in that game in the Big 12. Pac-12, I like the over with Stanford and Cal. Both teams play fast. And I think we should see a lot of points in that game with the Stanford Cal game. Arizona Utah, I like the over too. I would lean in that direction there. And I wanted to bet Utah. And I didn't love the number, but and like I say, I normally bet underdogs, but I think Utah does advance in that game. I like Georgetown getting the double digits against Providence. I mean, if you're Providence, I mean, you have just squandered so many opportunities to get marquee victories, whether it's Villanova, the loss, whether it was the UConn loss on Saturday where you got off to that great start, and then UConn just basically blew the doors off you the rest of the game in Providence on Saturday, a team that had already wrapped up the number one seed in the Big East. I don't trust Providence at all laying a number of that size. And I know it's Georgetown, who didn't have a great year at all, but this is the last chance for the former Providence head coach, Ed Cooley, to maybe get one over on his old team. And I could see Georgetown hanging in that game. So I agree that the money's come in on them down from 11 to 9, 9.5. I agree. I think that's a close game. Definitely think that's a closer game than where Georgetown opened in that one. Rutgers, Maryland. I have a piece of Rutgers there. I have a piece of the over there. I just thought, Rutgers isn't that same great defensive team. Maryland's offense has been better lately. Their defense has kind of fallen a bit. So just thought the 125 total in that game was a little light. I definitely like points to be scored in Michigan, Penn State, the other Big Ten first-round game tonight. Michigan can't stop anything. They're a terrible defensive team. Penn State plays above average pace. So I think that game can get up and over the total. Canisius is one of the hottest teams in the Metro Atlantic. They're playing Quinnipiac in the quarters. I could see Canisius hanging in there, +7 with the Golden Griffins there. Canisius is of interest. Iona Fairfield's a really good game. I kind of like over there. I think Fairfield wins, not totally comfortable laying 5. And keep in mind, Iona is coached by Tobin Anderson, Fairleigh Dickinson coach last year, took that team into the tournament. They won the conference tournament last year. This guy knows his way around conference tournament play. So maybe Iona could be a bit dangerous there for Fairfield in that game. Conference USA quarters, Florida International, Sam Houston State, like over there. Sam Houston State probably wins, but I didn't feel comfortable laying 7, 7.5. Took a shot. As bad as they've been on the road, I took a small piece of Middle Tennessee State against Louisiana Tech. Vanderbilt, Arkansas, Southeast Conference first round, SEC over for me there. I think Arkansas wins, but Vanderbilt kind of finished strong. And of course, the big win against Florida in their final regular season home game. So be a little bit careful with that. Vanderbilt's finished strong. I think Arkansas's got a run in them potentially if they get through this game tonight with Eric Musselman, who usually puts his best foot forward in the month of March. Missouri and Georgia. I mean, is Missouri really going to lose every conference game this year? I mean, are they really going to do that? Though, to be honest, they covered the last game they played against LSU. Georgia's not a team I'm laying points with. Not at all. Not even in the slightest. So I'm actually a little interested in Missouri there. Missouri's going to treat this like a, national championship game. If there's anything left in that team, emotionally, they don't want to be absolutely skunked in their own conference. And here's another pretty good chance on a neutral court against a beatable Georgia team where they can win. So Missouri, I think, could be live in that game there. Didn't do much with the WAC tournament other than I do like the over with Abilene Christian and Stephen F. Austin. Big West, I like Riverside money line against Bakersfield. I think Northridge, Santa Barbara could go over the total. Montana State, Montana. Look, I lean to Montana State there in that game. Montana State, it's a rivalry. The Montana State is playing some really good basketball down the stretch. They're getting a good amount of points, 6.5, 7 in that game. So, yeah, that Big Sky Championship game tonight, Montana State, Montana. I expect a tight game. I would look at Montana State there in that one. And then Lehigh Colgate. We'll wrap up there. Too many points again. Colgate hasn't looked great. Colgate has been obviously the team to beat in the Patriot League. Tonight's the championship game. But look at Colgate these last couple games. Struggled to win by margin in their first game. Bucknell almost had them beat, believe it or not, in their last Patriot League tournament game. And Colgate, and I mean survived barely, against Bucknell, came all the way back to win. Not a pretty performance by any stretch of the imagination. I'm not so sure we're going to see this Colgate team win easily tonight, taking on this Lehigh not Golden Hawks, Lehigh Mountain Hawks team. Lehigh playing some good ball down the stretch. I think this game is also very, very competitive. It reminds me of the game last night with Merrimack getting upset by Wagner. I mean, Wagner was laying in this same point spread range, or sorry, Merrimack was laying in this same point spread range, 7.5, 8. They lost the game outright. I'm not sure Colgate will lose the game outright, but I think Lehigh makes this a game, and I like them with the points there in the Patriot League. And then now, Nick, you're asking about Syracuse. Syracuse has done it before where they make these runs in the tournament. I do have a very small piece of them, but nothing that I'm overly confident in. Remember, those were Jim Boeheim's Syracuse teams. The fact remains we got to see if the new coach can sort of get these kind of March performances in the conference tournament out of this team. But NC State's flighty. I mean, they had a nice, relatively nice win against Louisville. It was harder than it probably should have been, but they're also capable of winning this game as well. Now, the one thing that I do want to point out, and it's the thing that actually pushed me, I was very, very lukewarm on Syracuse in this game. Then I did look at recent series history. Syracuse has won and covered every recent game against NC State. So they really have dominated the Wolfpack. And if that continues tonight, it wouldn't shock me. So I did grab a little bit of Syracuse. Yes, you do have to see if he's going to suit up there for this Syracuse team. He's obviously an important cog to the team, and we'll see if he's able to play for them in this one here tonight. And again, when you talk about this Syracuse team, look, the key for them is don't get crushed on the glass. That's been such an issue for them in the past. Is rebounding's been a problem. And again, they've tried to get away from that famous 2-3 zone this year, play a little bit more man-to-man under the new coach. We'll see maybe if that can cause some wrinkles here tonight for NC State in this game. All right, there you go. NBA, college basketball. We piled it all into about 30 minutes here on this Wednesday edition of Bet with Bobano. My usual Wednesday guest, Brad Francis, is unavailable today, but he'll be back next Wednesday on the show. Let's wrap this up. It is time for, we'll give you a best bet in NBA and a best bet in college. College basketball best bet for tonight. Lots of good choices. Let's go with Vanderbilt, Arkansas over 148. I believe we're going to see points in that game. I know Arkansas is going to score, and I know Arkansas is going to give up points because that's precisely what we have seen from the Razorbacks, especially in the last two games against Alabama and Kentucky. Now, I know both of those teams are very good offensively, suspect defensively, and the pace is pretty fast. Pace may not be as fast here, but Vanderbilt's defense ain't great. But they've been actually piling up better offense lately. And I was on the over with them in Florida over the weekend. Vanderbilt, Florida, it went over the total. I think when those two teams meet tonight, you'll see enough points. Total's reasonable, 148. So we'll go Vanderbilt, Arkansas over 148 for college best bet. Georgetown's honorable mention, too, because that's one of the sides I like here tonight in particular quite a bit on the Wednesday slate. And then for NBA best bet, for this Wednesday slate, I'm going to roll with that. Let me see here. I'm going to go with the over in the Brooklyn-Orlando game in that one. No, actually, I'm going to go Detroit. I'm going to go Detroit Pistons. I've changed my mind. I like Detroit. Detroit is right there is one of my favorite looks on the NBA board tonight. I'm a little actually skeptical of that Brooklyn-Orlando over. I think it's good value, but Orlando has been playing pretty good defense. Yeah, I think all things considered here, Detroit Pistons -3.5 against the Toronto Raptors. I think it's a good spot, and I think they get the job done. Toronto off that hell of an effort against Denver, but you're still very banged up, very shorthanded. Now after just playing way over your heads with all that missing personnel against Denver and still falling short. Now you got to ramp it up again against a Detroit team that's slowly but surely under the radar is playing a little bit better. Very, very tough spot, in my opinion, for the Raptors tonight. So Detroit -3.5 against Toronto, best bet. No bargain bin in the NBA. It's not the way it works with unless you're going to bet like some crazy triple-double prop or double-double prop. there's not as many bargain bin options in the NBA when it comes to player props. But NHL, sign me up. All right, with that in mind, it's time to wrap up. Thank you for tuning in. We're back next Wednesday, 4 p.m. Eastern. And actually, we might be back Monday. I believe we're going to start doing some Monday shows at 4 p.m. Eastern as well. So actually, Monday will be on 4 p.m. Eastern. And again, next Wednesday as well at 4 p.m. Eastern. And again, we will have Brad Francis back in the house with me to take apart and preview the Wednesday slate. So shout out to everyone in the chat. Make sure you hit the like button. Appreciate it very much. I'm Ian Cameron. Have a great Wednesday night. Enjoy the games and good luck. And we'll be back next week for more editions of the show. And as always, bet like Tony Soprano, bet with Bobano. And we will see you again on Monday for another edition of Bet with Bobano.